So here we've got a question that's similar to the question that we started with when we did those 3 examples. So what we're going to do is I always find it easiest to draw the angle, just because that's what we did the first time. We drew the angle here, 80 degrees. That's angle D. Okay. We've got triangle DEF, so I'm going to put E up here and F down there. And I know that F to E is 8, and D to E is 5. So this is 5. Now, if I'm going to make this other side 8, can there be 2 triangles? Or is there only going to be 1 triangle? Only 1 triangle. Okay? Only 1 triangle. Since the side opposite the angle is larger than the side adjacent the angle. Which is nice, because then we only have 1 triangle to solve. If that opposite side was a 4, then we would have 2 triangles to solve. Now, it's going to come up. It's going to come up on quizzes and tests for sure. It's a favorite, math teacher favorite on exams, quizzes, tests, is the triangle that you have to solve for both of them. So we'll do an example of that right after this. So now, we know that there's only 1, so we've drawn our diagram. And we need to solve for everything else, because it says, whenever the question says solve this triangle, that means find all missing angles and all missing sides. So I'm going to change color so that, I'm going to go to green so that everything we do from now on is our work. This is what was given to us, and we know there's only 1 triangle. Now we need to start solving stuff. Question is, can we use the sine law? Do we have an angle and its opposite side? Yes. We have the 80 and the 8. So what can we solve for first using the sine law? The angle F, because it's opposite the 5. So can you see how you're not really using the formula at all? Because the A's, the B's, and the C's, if you try to rethink of what's an A and what's a B, you're going to confuse yourself. As long as you keep thinking angles and opposite sides, you're going to be fine. So yes, we can find angle F first. And since we're finding an angle, we'll put that on top. Sine of F over 5, because those are opposites each other, has to equal sine of 80 over 8. Multiply both sides by 5. My 8 got partially erased, eh? Oh, here we go. Fancy 8. And type that into your calculator. You'll get a decimal. Sine of F equals 0 decimal. .6155. Dot, dot, dot. And then you go sine inverse of that answer. .38. Does it say round to the nearest degree? Yes. So it's going to be 38 degrees. Does it tell us to the nearest tenth of a centimeter? Okay. I'm going to show you something. I'm going to pull this up on the calculator as well, because there is some danger. There is some danger when we round early. So I am going to just type this in. So we had sine inverse of 5 sine 80 bracket divided by 8 bracket. That got us our 37.98. What I'm going to do is I am going to temporarily just store this as x, just so that I have all my decimal places for later on.
How do you store it?
The store button is right above the on button.
RC?
Right above it says sto.
Oh, okay.
That's short for store. And you can store it as x. You can store it as other things. What did we actually solve for here? Let's go back to our question. We solved for f, right? So if you wanted to be on your calculator, if you wanted to store that and go alpha and f, whoa, I almost hit alpha, f. You can store it actually as the letter f, and then it'll be easier for you to remember, what did I store it as? Oh, I stored it as f, so that later on I have that piece of information. Okay. Now, we know that it's 38 degrees. I'm going to go back to my diagram and add it in there with green so that we know that this is something new that we've solved for. This is 38 degrees. Good. What can we find next? You can subtract from 180 and find E. Okay. It's going to be, with the rounded answers, 62 degrees. Okay? With our non-rounded answer, if I go back to my calculator, we would have 180 minus the 80 minus f. Is going to be 62.01, which is really close to 62. I'm going to store that one because we found it as letter E. So now my angle E is remembered to be 62.01. Because in math, in pre-calculus, you do lose marks if they ask you to round, and you round early, it could affect your final answer. This one, I'm pretty sure even if we rounded now, it's not going to affect our final answer, but I'm going to show you the difference anyways. So now we're almost done. What haven't we solved for? We need side DF, which we could write if we wrote a little letter. Little e. That's the last thing we need to solve for. We can't use a squared plus b squared equals c squared. We can't use SOHCAHTOA because it's not a right angle triangle. But do we have an angle on opposite side? Yes. So we can use sine law. I'll do it over here. We want to find E, so I'll write E, over sine of 62. Now I'm going to just write dot, dot, dot to show that I'm not rounding early. Because if I use the 62, that would be rounded early. It could cause my answer to be off a little bit. Okay, we're going to see how much it changes in the end. I believe for this answer, it will make it not a difference when you round to a tenth, but we're going to see anyways. Now, when you're using now for the other one, we need another side and an opposite angle. You have a choice. You could use F, which is 38 degrees, and the 5, or you could use the 8 and the 80. The 8 and the 80 is going to be a better choice because that was given to you originally. And those aren't rounded, whereas the 38 was rounded a little bit. So it's a better choice here for us to go 8 over sine 80. Multiply both sides by the sine 62. Again, I'm going to put the dot, dot, dot there to show that I'm using the actual answer. And let's go to our calculator and see what difference it makes. Okay, so it'd be 8 sine, and that was angle E that I used, right? So I'll go alpha E to get it from my storage, divided by sine 80, gives us 7.17.
I got that.
7.1733. Okay. Now, if we had used just 62, so 8 sine 62 divided by sine 80. So now I'm using the rounded version early. I get 7.1725. A slight difference, but not enough when rounding to the nearest tenth. To the nearest tenth, this answer is going to be 7.2. So either way, in this one, because of the way they asked you to round it, either way works out perfectly. But part of the reason was when we got close to our angles, when it was 38 degrees, if we go back to our calculator, how close to 38 was it? It was really close. But had it been 37.6 degrees, that's a little bit farther off, then your final answer would be further off as well. Yes?
How do you get the 62 point dot dot dot? I mean, I'm starting to get the 62. Get like the point.
How did I get all of this? I did the same thing that you did when you said you understood how you got to the 62, that you did 180 minus 80 minus 38. But instead of using the 38, because that's rounded, I did 180 minus 80 minus, and it was really 37.98. Right? So I didn't round early there. I just used all of my decimal places all the way through. So in pre-calculus, you start to get used to making sure you don't round early in a question. For this one, it wouldn't matter, but it's just good practice to be able to do that all the way through. So the question for this one are questions 7i, 10, and 11.